Hey everyone, Chubby Shadow here, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to stop by my channel and listen to spooky story time. It's a real story time. It really happened. It's something that I didn't really talk about much after it happened. It was pretty terrifying, to be honest. So let's get to it. Alright, so this is back in about 2001. I was going back home to California to celebrate my grandpa's 80th birthday. And I was really excited to see my best friend. We had been best friends since about 6th grade, and she was a year ahead of me. So she left junior high and went into high school. So there was a year that I didn't see her, and we were inseparable. So anyway, when I moved away, it was about my junior year. I had a hard time because, I really didn't want to leave my hometown, but I really didn't want to leave her, and I couldn't imagine a day where I wouldn't wake up and be able to just call her and see her or hang out with her. So anyway, in the meantime, I live in Washington State. I did at the time, I still do. And so we keep in touch via email and Yahoo Chat. This is before the MySpace days and Facebook days. So we had to find other ways to talk. And so anyway, we would do this every night. We'd get online. And it was about the time that she would put her 18-month-old daughter to bed, and I had to get up very early the next morning to go to work. I'm talking 5 in the morning, so it was kind of okay, 10 p.m., I'm gonna get online and you be there. Okay, cool. So we would do this, and it was every night. And we'd get on there and we'd chat with other people, and it was a lot of fun. And it was less toxic than the social media as we know it now. So, anyway, we would talk every night, so on and so forth. And it just became, after all this time of talking, and going on, that she would lay her daughter down, and her daughter would wake up just screeching, not screaming, screeching. And I'm talking if you've ever heard a baby or a toddler with an earache, you know that screech. Except this was not a pain screech. This was a fear and terrified type screech. And it was always a good 5-10 minutes after she got on. And it was like clockwork every night. 10 p.m., I was at my desktop, and she was too, and her daughter was down, and 5-10 minutes later, 10:05, 10:10, she was screeching. So, I started getting these really bad vibes, and I'm not trying to act like I have these psychic abilities and I can read your energy and woo-woo kind of stuff. I do believe that some people have gifts and abilities, but I mean, we're talking from California to Washington, and I didn't like how I was beyond what I was hearing from this child. I didn't like how I not only could hear her screech, so I knew she was fearful, or, something was scaring her, maybe she was in pain, but I could feel this bad energy type of vibe, and I didn't like it. And I told my friend, I said, this doesn't feel good. And she was like, okay. And and I hate to say it, but my friend, ex-friend, she does care about her children, but she just kind of was like, duh, and like kind of didn't care. I don't know how to explain it. So she was just like oblivious. She was like, okay. And so she'd bring her daughter into the room and let her lay on her bed while she sat at her computer in her room, and we would talk and go on. Well, this continued for, oh my gosh, like 10 weeks plus, until I finally made it to California to visit. So, we got together, and it was like, yay, I'm so happy to see you. And I met her oldest daughter and her youngest daughter, and I was like, this is going to be interesting, seeing what might be freaking this poor girl out, because I really honestly didn't feel like my friend was protecting or taking care of her daughter like she should about whatever was going on. So I go to her apartment. Her husband worked nights, and go to her apartment, and we have loads of fun. We get online, and we're just chatting away with random people, and just doing our thing. And she goes, well, I need to lay her down, so I'm going to do that. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. So she went ahead and laid her down, and everything was quiet for about 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is real. Okay, I don't have bad vibes, nothing, and she's laying down. Okay, this is so strange. So we get out in the living room. She's like, well, do you want to go out and watch a movie or something? I'm kind of tired of the computer, and we do this, when we're away from each other. Let's do together stuff. Okay, cool. So we go out in the living room, and she sits on the couch, and I sit, as you can see on the diagram, I sit on the chair that was like sitting against the corner of the room. And we're sitting there, we're talking, and I look at the clock like I always do. I'm always, time oriented. And I look up, and it's like 11:30 now, and I'm like, wow, our daughter hasn't even woke up. What the heck is going on, So we start watching something, and I'm sitting there, and I have to tell you, my face, I was sitting diagonally, but looking right at the TV. Not paying attention to anything else. We were totally quiet, watching something. We were immersed in something. We weren't even talking. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this dark thing, and I'm explaining it so much slower than it was. It took my brain forever to process it afterwards, but it peeked around the corner, and I turned to look at it head on, and it was gone. It wouldn't let me look at it head on. It had a male energy, And I know I've always heard from people, that, ghost spirits don't have a male or female energy. They just, the longer they're dead, the less male or female they are. Well, this thing gave me a strange notion inside my head that it was there. It didn't make a noise. It didn't, do anything like that. It just told me it was there. Kind of telepathically. That's the only way I can explain it. It was the most terrifying, 5 seconds of my life. And when it reached around the corner, it was in the hall. When it peaked and it reached down the hall, what I could see head on was, as it reached around, and I tried to show this in the illustration, but I am not an artiste, was its fingers spread. Kind of like if you look down at your shadow, you can make it go longer, Its fingers just kept going and going and going. And so anyway, when I saw it out of my peripheral vision, I went... It took my breath away and I gasped. And I didn't say anything. I sat there and I was frozen. I just felt like if I moved, I don't know. It was terrifying. I couldn't say a word. And my friend sat forward and said, "Oh my gosh, you saw it, didn't you?" Just real loud and speedy talk. It's like she was so glad that she wasn't crazy that someone else had seen it too. So, yeah, that was crazy. And then shortly after, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you saw it too." Her daughter screeched like she had been every night when we were on the computer chatting. So that was that. She brought her daughter out later on the couch and we finished watching the movie. And instantly, it wasn't spooky or terrifying anymore. It just, the energy lifted. So that was strange. And guess where I got to sleep that night? I got to sleep on the couch in the living room. So anyway, that was, that really bothered me. But I just kept saying over and over in my head, "Please surround me with the protection of the white light." So I laugh about it now, and I know it seems like I just, talk very openly and freely about it, but that was truly a terrifying moment. I've shared my story with you about the haunted house in Mississippi, and that was unsettling and strange, but this was terrifying. And I understand why her daughter would scream. I do not want to know what that baby saw. That baby is now in her 20s. So, it's, my friend and I stopped being friends, about 7 years ago, and I honestly don't miss her, and, that's that. She and I never discussed what happened. We did not talk about it. I was kind of disappointed in how dumb she was about it. Her daughter was terrified. I don't know what else to say about it. She was so dumb. I would be getting the hell out of there. I want to know what was up with that apartment that had that horrible thing and energy there. I mean, this thing you could not see through. It was pitch black. So I don't want to know what horrible thing was living inside that shadow. Yeah. And I don't even want to call it a shadow, because I guess in order to cast a shadow, you would have to have a soul. So anyway, that is my shadow man, person, being, demon story. I don't even know what to call it anymore. I will say that Ghost, after I saw it, the only way that I would describe it to someone is the movie Ghost did a really good depiction. This thing in particular, in my experience, I can only speak about my experience, but it did not moan or groan or say a word. But it did tell me inside my head, and it was the strangest thing that it was there. On the movie Ghost, those little black things that drag people off, the bad people, that's about how tall this thing was. It was probably about 3, not even 4 foot tall. So, yeah, it just, I think it could be whatever it wanted to be. And that's what really scares me. I'm glad I only saw a black mass. So, anyway, thank you all so much for coming by and listening to my story. And I will see you all in the next video.